assists. 125-111. Impressive win on the road for Utah. They are on the right path right now. They take the home and home. They won 8 of 9 overall. Mitchell becomes the first with 12 straight games of 24 points or more since Karl Malone. Remember him? He was pretty good for the Utah Jazz back in the day. Guys, Donovan Mitchell, a little bit of a slow start like his teammates this season. What's gotten him going here in the new year?
Well, I think a combination of time and understanding how to really be the franchise guy. I think last year in his rookie season, he surprised everyone. I don't think any of us anticipated the impact that he would have on this roster, really becoming the guy that they trusted with the ball in his hands. And then coming back into this season, the entire NBA is ready for Donovan Mitchell.
Correct.
So now the game plan is geared up to slow him down. And I think it took some time for him and for the team to adjust to how can we be successful with Donovan Mitchell running and leading our team, but then balancing it out enough for everybody else to have opportunities. And I think they found a nice sweet spot. Quinn Snyder, to me, is one of the great coaches in our league. I mean, we had a lot of great coaches in the league, but Quinn's doing a great job with his group.
Yeah, well said, Fish. I think last year, like you said, they were a surprise on the season. I think this year Denver might be doing what they do, what they were expecting Utah to do. But Mitchell's a stud, man. He's consistent. He's got an outside jump shot. He kind of reminds me like a D-Wade kind of player. Very fast, very athletic, very explosive.
But with a three-point shot.
But with a great three-point shot, yeah. Exactly. Can make plays for his teammates. And then you see them starting to figure it out. Gobert's playing very well. He might make the All-Star team. You see them climbing in the ladder. We were talking about this off air. Utah's now in 7th spot and continue to climb before the All-Star break. So Utah playing very good basketball, which they usually do, and a lot of credit to Quinn Snyder.
Mitchell's averaged 30 a game, 47% from the field, 40 from three-point range over his last 10 games. How about the Clippers? They returned from a 3-1 road trip to find the Kings awaiting them in Los Angeles. We're assisting, guys. We're sharing the basketball. Kids, pay attention. Marcin Gortat to Tobias Harris. How about Harris returning the favor? Little pick and roll action, simple basketball. Easily executed. And then Lou Williams, become an assist machine here over the last couple of games, coming off his first triple-double. To Montrezl Harrell for the layup and one. Williams to Harrell again.
Great finish right there. Great pass right there by Lou Will. Harrell goes above the rim. Beautiful.
Harrell's really found a home in Los Angeles. Clippers with 21 assists on 25 buckets at the half. Second half, here come the Kings. De'Aaron Fox for 3. Fox, how about behind the back?
That's nice.
Then finishing, Bogdan Bogdanovic. Know your Bogdanovi. That's a long 2. He had 19. Clippers up by 5 at that point, but they finished it off. Patrick Beverley scooping. And the night, long to Harrell. 11 of 13 from the field. How about that for efficiency as he goes for 25 and 7 rebounds. Clips have now won 3 in a row and improved to 3-0 against Sacramento. Kings were just 8 of 36 from 3. They've lost 8 of 10 away from home. Montrezl Harrell was still making his way in the league when he was traded over to the LA Clippers and had a huge void open up for him when DeAndre Jordan left, and they haven't really missed a beat in that regard.
No, he's maximizing his opportunity there. You can see plays above the rim, plays with a lot of energy. Very, very similar to Fareed, maybe a little taller in size, but does a great job averaging 16 points, 7 rebounds. And what I like, averaging 1.3 blocks a game, doing a good job protecting the paint for those guys, giving them great energy, being very efficient, as you saw again tonight. Can finish with both hands inside. So very, very impressive. He's on a short list as well, maybe with Siakam as well in Toronto as most improved this season.
And a great example of a big athletic guy who's going to make a ton of money in the NBA by doing really basic things, right? Going to the rim, rebounding, dunking on the pick and roll. It's a good formula if you can pull
Great
it off.
formula.
Embrace your role.
Yeah, Clippers had 35 assists in this game.
Impressive for a team that doesn't necessarily have the type of perimeter shooting that you sometimes see, with the great shooting teams in the league. It just speaks to, I think, the identity that this team has embraced with one another. No man is greater than the other. They're sharing the basketball, playing together, utilizing the strengths of each of them. And it's impressive. I think Doc Rivers is doing a wonderful job with this group. And they're going to be an interesting team to watch as the season kind of tightens up. You know, can Lou Williams continue that fourth quarter scoring that he does so that the Clippers can steal some wins and hang into that Western Conference playoff run?
And can the Clippers hang on to what is right now the 8th spot for them and hold off the likes of the Lakers, the Timberwolves, the Pelicans, and everybody else?
LeBron's coming back.
The Western Conference. He's coming back sooner rather than later, that's for sure. All right, much more ahead here on Game Time coming up. Clay on the reasons he's hot at the moment and why the DeMarcus Cousins era is off to such a smooth start.
Got a Christmas gift this year, the return to form for one of the Splash Brothers. Klay Thompson's efficiency and percentages have been surging since Christmas Day. He explains why and more in this interview with 3D.
Klay Thompson is one of the greatest shooters this game has ever seen.
Nobody in the history of the game can heat up like this guy can.
Here's Thompson for three. Oh, he is on fire. Thompson again. Klay Thompson is 10 for 10 from three-point range. An incredible performance.
I want to go back to early in the season. There was so-called some slump you were supposed to be in. Shooters shoot. What's so much different now?
I think we're at full strength. I think my game kind of is intertwined with how the team's doing as far as ball movement, flow, pace, all those things. Because when we're playing with great pace and flow, I don't really have to take contested shots. I think my shot quality goes up greatly. And that's what happens when you play with great players. My game just meshes well. We're moving the ball well and we're playing at a high level.
Do you guys get enough credit for being so talented and so unselfish?
I think people have just gotten used to it. I think our style that we have played these last, 5-6 years have got people accustomed to seeing us hit the backdoor cutter, make the extra pass, hit the open man. We might not get enough credit for it, but I know people love to watch it. It's more fun to be a part of, and people are just used to it at this point. They just are used to the Warriors, having a 35 assist night with 10 turnovers and, blowing out the competition, but it's harder than it looks.
Speak about turnovers. Is that one thing now that pretty much half the season is gone, you guys are starting to tighten up a little bit, just taking better care of the ball?
We do this every year. We always start out the year playing a little sloppy, and then Steve always yells at us, brings us back into practice, has us doing passing drills, jump stop, pivot, chest pass. But he always reiterates, the simple leads is spectacular. And he always tells us when we just make that simple play, 4 or 5 possessions from then, you're going to hit a home run. That's when beautiful plays happen, whether it's an alley-oop to KD, Steph 35-foot pull-up in transition, Draymond throwing a couple oops, Andre catching them. That's when those happen.
The boogeyman, Mr. DeMarcus Cousins, is back from an Achilles injury.
Here's Durant with it around the screen by Cousins. Big roll. Goes there. Welcome back to Marcus Cousins.
Seen him in practice with rehab to get where he is now, and now he's on the floor. What's so different?
When he was in Sacramento, he kind of had to take the team on his shoulders for them to just be above 500. No offense, but I don't think he's played with this much talent unless it was Team USA. So the floor is open for him, and he is so unselfish as far as setting screens, making the extra pass. He's just really smart, too. If I'm coming off him for DHO, he's going to position himself so the defender has to go around him. Using his big body, coming off screens, him being able to stretch the floor, knock down threes is such an underrated factor for us. And just being a great basketball player, and he will make the right play.
Well, Klay has some of the most red-hot records we've ever seen. Most points in a quarter, most threes in a game, tied for most threes made in a row, 10 in a game, and the 60 points on those 11 dribbles. Real quick, Rip, which one of these impresses you most?
Well, the 10 straight threes. I think for me as a player, it's hard to make 10 threes, but to make your first 10 threes, I think that's very impressive to myself.
GA, when you look at Boogie coming in and adding another weapon to this offense and the fact that 86% of their baskets when he's on the floor are assisted. Yeah. And then the Wizards were like, okay, we're going to crowd the three-point line and not give them that. And that didn't work. So why did that not work as an approach against the Warriors to crowd the three-point line?
Well, I do think that has to be a part of your game plan to have success against them. And to your point, it didn't work for the Wizards, or it didn't work really for the Celtics, but it gave them a chance. And it's going to be important. The problem, though, is you're talking about arguably the highest basketball IQ team that you're going to see collectively. And here, they just take advantage. You overplay, taking away the three. I'll just go in and give me a little quick layup. Again, the ball movement, the spacing, the movement without the ball. And what they do a great job of is every aspect of their offense is the option. And they all make the right reads on these plays, And again, understanding weak side there, you're not going to leave Clay and you're not going to leave Steph. So that just creates an easy opportunity for that pick and roll action with Durant and also Boogie Cousins. So they're just, I think that's the thing that people didn't talk enough about when you look at Cousins coming over and also Durant. Those guys just weren't great players. They were high IQ guys. Like, they also have an ability to play without the basketball. They can make all the plays out on the floor. And Boogie doesn't have to Clay's point, he doesn't have to get 25 and 13. If he's getting 17 and 7 for them, that's the equivalent of him getting 25 and 13 on another team because of all the talent they play with. And he becomes another guy that you have to account for defensively. And when you look at the spacing they create, man, they become almost unguardable at times when they're clicking.
Rip, when you look at the Warriors and their adjustments offensively, that's easy to see. But defensively against Boston, they also made some adjustments in that game.
Oh, yeah, people forget how great of a defensive team this team is. I mean, when you look at the numbers, they slipped a little bit from the previous 2 years. But this is a team that really kind of gets at it. And it starts with Klay Thompson and his ball pressure. I think he's one of the best two-way players that we got in the game. And him guarding Kyrie Irving right here. But look at the weak side. You got two guys in the paint. You got Steph Curry and Draymond Green helping and is willing to give up the shot for Al Horford. Again, you see three guys, all of them, they got their eyes on Kyrie Irving because they know that he's a big part of this team. Now you got a guy like Boogie Cousins that can pretty much be a rim protector for this team, which they've been lacking all season long. Again, put Kyrie in pick and roll, the big stays out, Looney stays there until Livingston can get back. Boogie now has to guard too. Now he does a great job of getting in front of Al Horford, and now when they do that, now they're in transition, and this is where they make teams pay. If this team's allowed to get in transition and get easy baskets, especially like that, they're just too good of a team. They share the ball. They average, close to 30 assists a game. This is a team that's tough to beat, not just because their offensive game, but their defense has also been great too.
Certainly a dynamic ball club. We all know about the Splash Brothers, but now they have the Splash Cousins. I mean, he's shooting 57% from three-point range since coming over. But how has he unlocked this offense in different ways?
Well, the big thing for him is the shot quality. Okay, when you're the focal point of the offense, oftentimes you're going to take a lot of 9-1-1s. You're going to have to create all your own offense. And you see here, offense gets creative for him. I mean, these are not hard shots. And so when you give a great player these kind of looks, he's going to shoot a tremendously high percentage. And I think from his standpoint, it's probably the easiest the game has ever been, other than when he plays on Team USA, because he's basically playing on Team USA right now when you look at the makeup of this Warrior squad.
And Rip, to your point, the point differential since Boogie has been with the Warriors, that's the thing that you're looking at, including their tight game against Boston. That's factored into the equation.
Listen, you got 5 All-NBA guys on the team, and when they're on the floor together, you look, they got 43 assists on their 50 makes. So that's very impressive to me, because anytime you got a superstar type caliber guy, you got 2 former MVPs, a lot of times guys try to take it upon themselves to kind of be the leader on the offensive end. But they know they do it by committee. You heard Klay Thompson's interview. He says, hey, you know what? I got the luxury of playing with great players. And when you're playing with great players, the spacing is great, like GA say. You ain't got to take tough shots. You ain't got to go out there and force the issue, because you know if you swing the ball, your teammate is going to be looking for you to get yourself a wide open basket.
Well, it won't be too long before you can see the Splash Brothers and the Splash Cousins right here on NBA TV. They're on Game Night Monday. Casey Stern, Candace Parker, Steve Smith will call the game between the Warriors and the Pacers. The nightcap will feature the Hawks and the Clippers. Coverage starts at 6:30 with the Auto Trader pregame show. Hasn't just had a really good month. He's had one for the record books. Historic 43 points, 8 assists a game, 22 straight games with over 30 points. Only Wilt Chamberlain has had a longer streak. So when you see these numbers on your screen, the first and most obvious question, Chris Paul back in the lineup, how will he affect this historic run that James Harden is on?
Well, I think he'll affect it some from the standpoint, but he'll affect it positively, because if you're James Harden, one of the issues you saw in Game 7 in that conference final last year without Chris Paul is he just got fatigued down there. And he just didn't have the legs because of the physicality. Chris Paul gives you another dynamic playmaker and scorer, and that's something that this group is missed. Remember, James Harden, I don't know how long that streak is, but all those points he scored without having anybody assist on him. And I don't care how great a player you are, it's comforting to have an all-NBA performer that can go out and carry some of the load. Plus, you factor in that these two guys have developed a great chemistry together after leading the league in wins of seasons ago. So I can tell you, James Harden might be the happiest guy on that Rockets team outside of maybe Chris Paul that he's back.
I would have to agree with Greg. I mean, James's usage rate is off the charts right now. I mean, when he's on the floor, they go through him. It's not like when he gives up the ball, he's actually making cuts, UCLA cuts, coming off pin downs to get wide open opportunities. Every team in the league knows exactly what they're going to run, and that's going to give him the ball, put him in multiple pick and rolls, put him in an ISO situation. Now you add Chris Paul back to the mix. Now he can get a breather, especially playing off the ball, and he can get some time, on the bench. But I think Chris Paul is not going to do anything but help this ball club. It's definitely going to help him. Now you bring another leader out on the floor, another pit bull, a guy that can defend and lead the team, and now James can go pretty much in scoring mode, and it doesn't always have to be a vocal leader out on the floor.
Well, the Rockets are also a different team since Chris Paul was injured on December 20th. And by that, I mean new personnel. Just look at the new faces on this roster. Austin Rivers now in the mix in the backcourt. Kenneth Faried now in the rotation in the front court. Clint Capella out the next month as well. How will things change for these new players in the rotation as Chris Paul comes in, because their roles will change a bit?
You know what? I don't know that they will. I will say, first, give Daryl Morey a lot of credit to be able to go and get two quality players like Rivers and also Faried to come in. Again, not that they're going to give you the same kind of production, but, man, they take a huge load off having some veteran guys that are unafraid of the moment that can make the plays that are necessary, right? Faried can finish at the rim. He can help you control that defensive backboard, and that's going to be critical, and he gives you some frontline defense. Austin Rivers is a guy that can get electric offensively himself. I think comfortable scoring. I think his scoring is going to go up with Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Because Chris is not going to look to score as much as James, and I do think that James is looking forward to this, in part because their goal ain't to just get numbers. They feel like they still got a chance to win a world championship if they can get everybody healthy. You think about getting those two new guys incorporated, and then when you get Capella back, how much more depth this group could have.
Yeah, and the thing that we don't talk about with Austin Rivers is his defense. I think his defense on the defensive side of the game, he's really showed his impact on this Houston Rockets team, especially when you lose the defenders that they lost last year. So I think when they went out, they got two veteran players, guys that know how to play and can play with anybody. I think when Austin first got there, Coach D'Antonio would tell him, hey, be more aggressive on the offensive end, shoot more. And he didn't really understand that until now, and understands that, hey, you know what, D'Antonio gives his players the freedom to go out there and make plays. And Faried has been a big-time plus just from the energy level. It's putting him in pick-and-roll situations with James Harden. He's diving to the basket. He's athletic. He can finish at the rim. So both guys is a huge plus for this team.
You mentioned Kenneth Faried, and GA, when you look at the past two seasons for him, he's just 29, but he only played 44 games combined in the previous two seasons. Why were his situations keeping him off the court when he was healthy?
Well, I think first and foremost, look at the guys that's playing in front of him. You know, they went out and got that guy Jokic. Remember, they had also drafted Nurkic. So
and had Millsap.
And Millsap and that they brought in. So, in essence, he had kind of – and I think it made sense for them because when you look at the evolution of the game and how things have changed, Faried's kind of an old-school player, right? He's much more of a physical guy. You know, he's not a high-skill guy. He's more of a high-motor guy. And I don't know that the motor was as high as it needed to be at that point. But I think a lot of times when you see it happen in the league a lot where a guy, you fall out of favor, but you get a second chance. And I think if you're Kenneth Faried, this is an opportunity. And, I mean, he didn't just get a second team chance. This guy got to go play with two of the very best players in the league, a team that has championship aspirations. So that in and of itself is going to motivate him as well to play some of his best basketball. And you saw in his last outing when he went out and had that monster game.
And when you look at the Rockets completely, because Kenneth Faried seems like a great addition to that team, as far as their chemistry is concerned, when you bring Chris Paul back into the lineup, he's a guy like James Harden is going to assist and help other guys get baskets. How does that change their dynamic? I mean, 12-5 in their last 17.
Well, he fits. I mean, Chris Paul is probably one of the smartest players that we have in our game, and he's a great leader. He understands, okay, when he comes back, he's not going to try to overdo it. Coach D'Antonio's not going to come out and say, all right, Chris, we need you to play 40 minutes. They understand that, hey, you know what, he went out with an injury last year in the playoffs, and, hey, when you're dealing with a hamstring, you got to be very, very careful. So Chris knows, he sees that James Harden has been on fire the last, 20-something games, scoring over 30 points. So he understands who he has to get the ball to. The problem is, hey, he needs to understand that he don't got to do too much. But I think he's smart enough to know that.
Certainly Chris Paul, a cerebral player in the NBA, if there ever was one. Russell Westbrook and the OKC Thunder facing the Milwaukee Bucks. And at the end of the first half, Westbrook goes down and is limping towards the locker room. So we'll try to keep you abreast of that situation. They just went into halftime. Take another look. Looks like a collision with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Russell Westbrook went down and limped into the locker room. Highlights coming up on the other side of this break. The Kings and Clippers, they played in the matinee, and so did the Cavs and Bulls. Both teams looking to get back to some winning ways, having tough seasons. That's up next. You're watching Game Time Live.